Hey guys! Good afternoon or good evening. It's Friday. Thank God it's Friday. I'm really happy about that. So I have a different setup here. I have my phone kind of up high at my desk because I needed my desk space and my back has been killing me and I needed to sit in a chair instead of sitting on the floor or sitting on my bed. So this is what you get. And you get to see my mess behind me, but that's okay, whatever. Got my ketones. Little Maui Punch is amazing, so good. But I'm on here tonight, guys, to chat with you. Actually, I'm gonna share this real quick before I get started. I'm gonna share it on my personal page. Let's see if I can get there. I haven't done this before, where I'm on live. I can see myself. That's kind of crazy. So, I am going to share this on my timeline. Okay. I feel organized, and then I have to shut that down because I can't stare at myself. So I am coming to you guys live tonight because I'm loving this series that I'm doing because it's not just me helping myself. I'm sharing with you guys to help someone else as well, and that is ultimately what I want to do. As a nurse, that's just what's in my heart. So what I'm doing is every week I'm doing a lesson or doing some work or finding a piece of work that I can do during the week so that I can then bring it to you guys live. If you're jumping on with me now, I want you guys to let me know you're here. Let me know who's watching. I can't see who's joining, but I see a couple people are on. So go ahead and just either leave a comment and say, hey, let me know where you're watching from. Or drop just say the word live down below so I know that you're watching live. If you're watching the replay, go ahead and write replay down below. Then I can get back to you and then just say thank you for joining me because this is a fun thing that I'm doing and helping people. And I've gotten a lot of really good responses from people. Like I've gotten messages and I really appreciate that because everything that I'm doing to help myself, I think everybody can benefit from, whether you're dealing with grief like I am, depression, anxiety, or if you are dealing with, maybe not dealing with in-depth issues like that, but everybody, we're all connected some way. We all have the same kind of issues, some at a higher extent because of experiences, which that's what I'm going to talk about tonight, and then others for that may not have really tragic issues happen in their life. They still deal with some of the same things, but on a different level. So the tips that I can find that are helping me, I think I can share with everybody because everybody can possibly benefit from it. So this week's lesson, I am kind of naming it as mental management or emotional management, and it comes from an amazing podcast that I listened to this week. And I'm really big on listening to podcasts because what they do is they allow me time to really focus in on the words and what's being said instead of reading, because reading for me, I've always been somebody who falls asleep when I read. I don't, if you're like that, let me know, drop a comment below. Hey Michelle, I see that you joined. But let me know that I'm not alone, because when I sit down and I read, I might be able to read for like a half an hour, but then I start to get really tired and I want to close my eyes. So if I read, I start to read at bedtime, which then I don't absorb it as well. So what I do is I listen to podcasts or audiobooks, and I listen on my way into work or dropping my daughter off at school, which is a good hour. It takes me an hour to get her to school and get to work with the traffic that we have in Phoenix. So that's a good hour of time that I can spend on myself and really set my intentions for the day and be positive. Because if I listen to the news, because I hate the crap on the radio, I don't mind listening to music, but then that's just like, you don't really do anything during that time. You're just listening to music and relaxing. I like the peace and quiet so I can listen to my thoughts, or I like to listen to podcasts to really dive in and listen to the words and do the work while I'm driving, thinking about how I feel about things and that sort of thing. So the podcast that I listen to is from a life coach that I have fallen in love with, and I follow her on Facebook. I listen to her podcasts every week. Her name is Brooke Castillo. She's freaking amazing, and she just says things that are like light bulb moments constantly. So I'm going to kind of recap her podcast and put in my own information that I did this week, my own work. But basically, if you were to listen to her podcast, it's a lot longer, but I'm going to talk a little bit about it because I have a ton of notes from this podcast. I even printed out her show notes because it was such a good podcast. And her podcast is called Neutrality of Circumstances. And there's so much to this, and she goes into a lot more things, but I wanted to bring you kind of the cliff notes because I think that's valuable, and we all relate to things a little bit differently. I took from it to what I'm dealing with and how I can relate to it. You can take what I've learned and relate to it differently. So it just can go on and on and on from there. So what this podcast talked about is that life is made up of circumstances, right? We all have circumstances that happen that are not part of our control. So a circumstance is something that we have no direct control over, and that can be anything from the weather, from crime that happens that we're not related to whatsoever, anything that happens, traffic. It can be how people react or talk to you, how a baby crying in a grocery store. All of those things are circumstances around us. And what she proposed in this podcast makes total sense, that all these circumstances are neutral. Like there's no good or bad about them. They are just facts. They are just things that happen in this world that are just facts, with no emotion tied to them whatsoever. And so she talks about how these circumstances basically come to us, and then we make the decision on whether they're positive or negative. And how we respond or we react is what makes them positive or negative. And we decide how we're going to react or respond to those things. And so the world is made up of these neutral events that happen around the world, and what makes the world makes it more positive and in a light for us, or negative, is how we feel about it, how we internalize it, how we turn it into an emotion. And so she, something that was really powerful to me is that, we as humans, we tend, or I should say, we as people right now, we are trying to always make the world a happy place. And, the world can't be a happy place 100% of the time. We're going to have bad stuff that happens in our lives. We are going to have, losses in our lives. I've had a huge loss in my life. I know many other people have had major losses in their life. You're going to have things that happen that make you angry. You're going to have things that happen that you feel horrified by. Murder happens every day in this world. And if everything was positive, we would have no lessons to learn. We would have no appreciation for the good that happens in this world. We can't be happy all the time. That's just not reality. We are human. We're going to have emotions that are high and low. And that's what makes us human. That's what makes life enjoyable, because you want to enjoy the happy times. And how we respond to the sad times is what makes our lives full or less, in a way, if that makes sense to you guys. We need that 50-50 balance. If we try to go to an 80-20 balance, 20% negative, 80% positive, life just doesn't work. Our brains want to respond, they want to make things negative to protect us. And then we try to veer in the opposite direction. And we have to accept that we will have sad feelings, and we will have feelings of being unhappy and angry or horrified or what have you. And I talked a little bit about this last week, that it's okay to be comfortable when you're uncomfortable. We have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And an angry situation or a sad situation is definitely uncomfortable, and nobody likes to be there. But when you become accepting of it, and you can become somewhat comfortable in that position, then you can learn from that experience. You can learn from that and move forward. And it's your choice on how you move forward. So my first tip that I took away from her is that we have to look at the circumstances in our life or in the world from a third-party type of position. So we can't look at it. She talks about it kind of like a Martian, and I thought that was funny, because if you look at it from a Martian standpoint who doesn't understand the world, has no emotions, is just a green guy in the sky, he's not going to understand a circumstance and if it is a positive or a negative thing, right? So what we need to do is take our emotions out of it, and we need to look at the circumstance without the emotion, as hard as that may be. But we need to look at just the facts and don't put a label to it right away. Don't put a story to it. And a really great example about this is, we can talk about different things that have happened in the world, and some things like murder or death or something. We can watch a news story on TV, and if you watch a news story and they tell the story and they tell the background of the family and who this person was and how they died and the horrific thing that happened to them, it is horrifying and terrible, and it puts a lot of emotion into us. But if you're in this world, you know that murder happens every single day in this life. We know that horrible things happen every single day in this life. Do we get horrified and disgusted with every single murder or every single death that happens in this world? Because we're not aware of every single one, right? It happens every single day. So it's a circumstance, it's a fact. And we don't get ourselves so upset about every single one of those things that happen. But when we turn it into a story and we humanize it, that's when we put emotion to it. And that's powerful. That just made so much sense to me. And it clicked for me that is a huge way to look at things, because the big part about it is how we respond to it and how we label it. So, another thing, this was a really good point. Another fact to look at is 9/11. And as horrible as that is for us as Americans, there are people on the other side of that thought it was the most positive thing in the world. Like, they were so excited and so happy that they had done that. Now, it's crazy to us. I think it's nuts. I don't understand it, because I think any kind of violence is horrible. But there is a percentage of people in this world who believe that was the right thing to do, and they felt so positive about it. So it's also our background and how we are taught and raised, and the experiences that we've had in our lives that make us respond a certain way. So taking that step back and looking at the circumstances that are around you without emotion, taking it out and just looking at facts. And sometimes for me, what I have to do is I have to write the facts down on a piece of paper. Like literally write all the pros, the cons, or just the facts, so I can look at it and not think about the emotion, not get my heart involved. And that really helps me look at things a little bit differently. So, yeah, I'm sorry, I have to read my notes because I want to stay on track, because otherwise I will babble. So yeah, looking at things as positive versus negative, it is 100% how our emotions are and what we think about them. So, two people can have completely different viewpoints on something, and that's human, right? It takes all kinds to live this life and for this world to go around. But their outlooks determine everything. So you can have somebody who looks at every circumstance as negative and someone who looks at every circumstance as positive, and they're going to have two different ways of life. Like the person that thinks everything is negative, they are going to live a life in negativity. They're going to attract negativity. They're going to live in a world where they feel like everything is happening to them. And I know I have friends who live that way. I've known people that have lived that way. And then you see the people on the other side who take everything. They may not see something as positive, but they find the positive piece to it, and then they move forward and they try to live that life positively on their way to create something positive. Whew, my computer just tried to shut down. So you can use those things, the circumstances around you and how you respond to them and how you feel about them, to create the life that you want, or create the negative life. And you may not want it, but are you creating it because of how you're feeling and how you're living in a negative mindset? So that's huge for me, because you can take a situation like mine where, and I know many of other people who have lost their children, a child, a pregnancy loss, what have you, and you mourn that loss, and I feel it every single day. It's not something I look at as in a positive way, but I try to find why it happened, the positive piece that was brought out of that. So for me, my personal, look upon what happened with Alexis, I have no control over what happened. I can look back and I still have anger sometimes about it. I still think about how, maybe if we had done this or done that or did this differently, would things be different? But the fact is that we fought hard for her. She fought hard, and her little body just couldn't make it through everything that she had gone through, and she passed away. And what that has done for me is it has taught me how to get closer to God. And I'm not going to sit here and preach to you guys, but I have a relationship with God that I never had before. And that was the purpose of her. Her purpose in my life was to bring me closer to God, to change my direction in life, because I was in a completely different direction when I had Alexis. I literally was heading down the road of leadership in nursing. I wanted to become a director of the ICU. That was my goal. That was going to be my next step. And after Alexis, I said, nope, not even going to think about it, not interested. I do not want to live my life tied to a job like that. No interest whatsoever. I want to create something beautiful, something meaningful, something that is helping more people. And I found this outlet on social media where I can reach more people, far more people than I can reach in a job as a director working for a healthcare organization. So you can take what you choose to take from any negative situation and create that. So you need to find how you're responding to the things in your life, the circumstances in your life. You can accept them. When you accept circumstances, that doesn't mean that you're condoning it. It doesn't mean that you believe it was the right thing to happen. I still don't believe Alexis being gone is the right thing. Had she be here, I may still be on the same trajectory that I was on, but I choose to accept what happened and find the positive out of it, and then try to create from there. And and in another way, what that does for me is I'm honoring her memory. I am creating a life that she would want me to have without her being here. She's watching over me, and you can turn this into anything with any family member or friend that you've lost, because in her name I do what I do. That's the way I have to think about it. I work hard. I am trying to figure out this home business thing. I'm working really hard at this. I love it. I'm passionate about it. It's become a big part of my life, but I do it in her name. It is how I feel like I honor her name. So once you can accept a circumstance, then you can decide how you're going to create your life from there. So, even thinking about weight loss, how many people do we know I've come in contact with who want to change their body? They are desperate to change their body. They're unhappy with their life. Some people have even said they're disgusted with themselves. And that's sad for me to hear. I feel that we should, and I was there once, guys, so I completely can relate. I just know that when you feel so horrible about how you look and you're unhappy with how you look, it's more work than just what you're doing, what you can do on the outside. Seriously. So if you're looking to make a change to your body, you have to accept your body, accept who you are. And that comes from the inside. So you have to really go into diving into this personal development and finding out what's making you unhappy, because it sure as heck is not just how you look. Because there's people out there that are not the model, figure or fit, or they're just not the healthy look that people think, and they're happy as a clam. They're just out there doing what they love. They love life. They're excited, and that is wonderful. So you can't change something that you don't accept and you don't love. I love the fact that I had a beautiful daughter. I accept the fact that she passed away. I am creating a positive life from that. So, if you're somebody who is so trying to lose weight and you're so unhappy with yourself, it is not going to work until you do the hard work and you learn to love yourself from the inside out, and then you can create the positive change that you want to make on the outside. But you have to make it from the inside out first. So my second tip is really leading with the positivity. So if you are trying to make a change in your life in a way but you're leading with negative, so you're leading with hatred, or you're leading with, I'm going to beat this weight that I'm gaining, and you're doing it out of spite, you're doing it out of fear. A lot of people will do things out of fear, and that is a negative as well. So you have to lead change with positivity. You cannot lead with negativity. And if you're a mom, you absolutely know what I mean, because you cannot get your kids to do something by being negative all the time. You have to you have to lead with positivity, but discipline, right, guys? But you have to lead with the positivity. If you constantly focus on the negative, guess what? It just isn't going to work. And that kid is going to get worse and worse and worse. Or they're going to do things out of fear, and then they're going to have a mindset problem as they get older. So lead with positivity to make the change in your life that you want to see. I was going to read something to you because this was amazing. What she said. Brooke Castillo is the podcast that I listened to this week that really made a huge change in it validated a lot of my thoughts that I was already having. So, all right, so she quoted a person, an author named Byron Katie, and I've never heard of this lady before. And let me see if I can find her real quick, because I think Byron Katie is an author, and she teaches a method of self-inquiry known as the work of Byron Katie. She has written a bunch of books, Question Your Thinking, Who Would You Be, what is it called? Who Would You Be Without Your Story? Just lots and lots of books. I Need Your Love. Is that true? Like, she's just a thought leader. And what Brooke had talked about, she said, Byron Katie would say, circumstances are reality. And when you argue with reality, you lose, but only 100% of the time. And what Katie means by this is that it's not the circumstance that is causing us pain, but rather our thoughts about it and our argument against it that is causing us pain. No matter how horrific your past, no matter how horrible the event, no matter how awful someone treats you, the only thing that ever causes us emotional pain is our own thinking about it. That is huge. So really looking at circumstances in a way where you can release the emotion to it and then move forward to bring a positive light from the circumstance. Sure, there's going to be some negative. There's going to be anger. There's going to be things in your life that you just are very unhappy with. But all things that are happening around you are not happening to you. What's happening to you is your emotions. So how you respond to it. And I find that's the final thought I want you to think about is it's not happening to you. These circumstances happen to everybody, but how you think about them is how you're going to create your life going forward. And do you want it to be positive or do you want it to be negative? And just be conscious about how you're thinking about the circumstances. And I mean that seriously. Like, whatever we're putting out to the universe, we are going to receive back. So be very conscious about your anger, be conscious about your hatred, and be conscious about the horror, because what you put out, we're putting more out to the world. And oh my gosh, that's just amazing to me. So anyways, this was episode 2 of Fix Your Funk Fridays, and I hope you got some value out of this. If you did, please share this this live broadcast on your page. Share it in a messenger to somebody that you feel like could benefit from this. If you feel like it could help somebody, you know, on your page, share it on your page. I would really greatly appreciate it, and just let me know. Let me know what you think, because it just means a lot to me to hear your thoughts and to know that I'm helping you guys somehow, some way with some of these tips that I'm bringing to you. So have a fabulous Friday night. Stay safe and make it a wonderful weekend. Bye, guys.